Hi everybody, I am going to be doing a reasonably regular series of video book reviews, and for my first review I'm going to start with a very unusual book published actually 20 odd years ago called Leadville by Edward Platt. This is a book I found in a second-hand bookshop here in Dalkey where I live, and it's a most unusual book and one that I really highly recommend reading. Platt is an English journalist who lives in London and who one day did something very unusual. I'll read from his book. One afternoon in January 1995, as I drove along Western Avenue, I did what I had never done before. I parked the car in a side street and walked onto the road. For reference, Western Avenue is one of the busiest approach roads to London. It is staggeringly busy. It runs from White City, approximately in London itself, all the way out to the Hooverbuilding. The Hooverbuilding is a most magnificent Art Deco building currently in use as a store, and it is well worth visiting. In fact, when I lived in London many years ago, I lived behind the Hooverbuilding in an area known as Perivale. This book describes a walk along the road known as the A40, originally constructed in the 1930s, and rather than drive along it as millions of people do every year, Platt decided to walk along it and describe the people that he met, the feel of this road, which is in many respects a very overlooked and really uncared for piece of infrastructure. Platt says, and this is really remarkable when you consider the trouble we have with building houses today, that 4 million homes were built between 1921 and 1936. This is again in the UK, as the city centre slums were demolished and their inhabitants relocated to the outskirts of the town. The population of inner London fell by about 400,000, but the suburbs increased in size dramatically in a, quote, vast new wilderness of glass and brick on the edge of town. A quote from J.B. Priestley. This book is really quite superb. It's got all sorts of praise on the cover: compelling, riveting, endlessly entertaining. I think it's all of those things, but it tells all sorts of stories that really are quite stunning. For example, in 1907 there were 32,000 cars on Britain's roads. In 1995 there were 23 million. And I've just checked, according to Statistica, there are now 32 million cars on the roads in the UK, which is really quite something. H.G. Wells, the futurist and science fiction writer, suggested that because of the car, that London by the year 2000 would have an area similar to the size of Ireland. That clearly did not happen. London has been contained within the M25 and has been contained very effectively within that area. And the effect of a road like this is really quite remarkable on the people who live along that road. Platt, for example, records the story of a family who found the noise from the road so oppressive that they reversed their house so that the back door became the front door, and they stopped using the front door because of the noise and the pollution coming off Western Avenue, the A40. I won't go on anymore, except to say I just checked on Amazon. This book is still in print, and you can get it also on Kindle, and I really do recommend reading it. It seems in some respects to be a little bit out of place. It was published originally in 2000 or so it's 20 odd years old, but it is now, it is still, I've just had a reread of it over the weekend, a quite wonderful book to get a kind of a psychogeographical feel for what it is to live in an area that is regarded as place to drive your car through for millions of people, but actually is a place that people live. And I do recommend it most highly for that very, very simple reason.